Good afternoon, everybody. I am Allison Mata, and I am here with an update on the Luigi Mangione matter. So I'm not sure. It's a lot of information has come out today, so I'm just going to go over kind of broad strokes. And I'm going to focus mostly on what's being reported by the New York Times because Bob and I have decided that we think that they're reputable, and we're not going to get any false information. Bob is in um, Indiana today, and he will not be back until tomorrow. I did remember if you were here yesterday, as soon as we got off, that of course I knew what was going on today. But in any event, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Cool Lady, for gifting 5 memberships. So the it's being reported that a couple of things. One, there was this notebook that he was arrested with. He had a notebook, and um, according to 2 law enforcement officials, it detailed plans for the shooting. The notebook described going to a conference and killing an executive, is what the officials described, and that it says, "What do? You whack the CEO at the annual Parasite Bean Counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and it doesn't risk innocence," was one passage written in the book. I also heard some other things about like he considered a bomb, um, but said that a bomb would risk, or maybe not considered a bomb. I'm sorry, talked about Kaczynski and how a bomb would risk innocent people getting hurt. So they also said that they were able to match his fingerprints to those on the water bottle, which we've heard about, and the Kind snack bar wrapper recovered from the scene. And they also match the ballistic evidence at the scene. So now what's interesting is that it appears, if what's being reported is correct, so here they're saying that they have the unregistered gun, the ghost gun, um, and they matched it to 3 shell casings that were found at the crime scene. So, in theory, they would have had to get an expert in there, do some testing with the actual 3D printed gun, and I don't know. I don't know if a 3D printed gun is going to have more distinctive characteristics because it's unlike anything else, or my lack of knowledge of how 3D printers work, or is it like you put in it's an exact replica of um, some other gun. But I would suspect that like a ghost gun made on a 3D printer with special parts and stuff is going to be more distinctive than your average gun. So the authorities also said that they found, and I know Bob mentioned this yesterday, that it was a 262 word handwritten note with him of him taking responsibility. And you guys have heard all of that, the symbolic takedown, um, that it detailed parts of. And the police are saying he likely views himself as a hero of sorts, has just finally decided to act upon injustices. So I've been trying to, hunt down some guests for us. I'm gonna have to admit to Bob that I was unable to do that as of yet. Um, it's like I really took it seriously. I was really, really looking for something, anything, um, but there you have it. Also, the charges out of New York, I'm assuming his lawyer now knows that those exist, but we're not back in court today. They're back in court on, well, does anyone know when they're back in court? Mandy, do we know when they're back in court? So, I mean, it's seeming like no matter, uh, which way you sort of look with the evidence, that it is pointing back to Luigi Mangione, and they're moving quickly because it's kinda quick to have gotten somebody already in to test those, to do such a detailed examination of the gun and test it and do a full analysis. So somebody was told, "Drop what you're doing, get in here, we need this before all else." And, thank you, Forrest Nelson. So I'm trying to look in your comments to see if anyone else, if you guys have, um, heard anything else. I mean, CW notes that he seems to be an educated person. Why would you leave rubbish at the crime scene and sit at McDonald's with a weapon and a manifesto? It doesn't make sense. I mean, we've been calling him the Enigma, and that's definitely, what he is, just based on everything, based on how he, like you said, I mean, his education, how meticulous all of this was, how cleanly he got away and carried out the crime, his background, his upbringing, and the fact that by all accounts, everyone says that this is a generous, loving, caring human being. And, I don't know, is this a reflection of the same thing we're seeing with, and even many of you in the chat, but people out there who are of the mindset that this guy is a hero. And again, to me, I just can't see it. I can find all the difficulties and issues with the health system, with private health insurance, with them killing people, all of those things, and still never think, that it's an appropriate act of vigilante justice to just take a guy out in cold blood. But it does seem like CW's comment and the comments I know that Bob has made, throughout this, like, this was somebody just not trying not to get caught. And you heard from the yesterday, we heard from one of the friends of the group of guys that sits in McDonald's once a week or every day, was it? And they were talking loud enough for the employee to have heard them indicate, or one of their friends in their group indicate, that that looks like the shooter from New York. And he didn't move. He didn't leave. He didn't flee. So, all of that adds to the enigma. So sorry guys. Sometimes I get in this basement and something gets me coughing right away. Give me 1 second. So why don't we talk about one of the articles that where they're reporting um, how family and friends react to all of this? Because that's what's like. Where is someone that's going to come forward saying, "No, this guy was. I ran into him the last 6 months, and he was totally off kilter, and something's not right." But ABC News reported that um, that in a statement put out by the Mangione family, "Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved," which and another portion said, "We are devastated by this news." Well, it sounds like they're devastated that he was arrested, and they're asking for people to pray for all involved, which would mean him as well. They even got a statement from a private school, the Gilman School, a prestigious private school in Baltimore from which Mangione graduated as valedictorian in 2016, said, "Suspected involvement in this case is deeply distressing news on top of an already awful situation. Our hearts go out to everyone who was affected here on campus. Our focus will remain on caring for and educating our students." A friend that they talked to said it was for real. I'm sorry, surreal. Um, I've still been in a little state of disbelief that this kid that I have known from high school 8 years ago is now the most high profile killer, allegedly, in this country. He said that he um, thought a friend was joking when he got arrested, and that the person I knew 8 years ago and the person that has allegedly become today could not be more different. I would never have I would never have anything bad to say about him. He was the nicest kid you've ever met, really driven. Another classmate said, "He's the last person I expect to be involved in something like this. He always came off as a really good kid, very nice, very humble, open to talk to anyone. Really not a problematic kid in high school. He never really got in trouble, wasn't attention seeking or anything like that. Just a bright kid with a bright future," is kind of what I thought. So then they also spoke to classmates at University of Pennsylvania, and one of his classmates said it was expected that he would go down like a typical path. So when we heard about all of this, it came as a huge shock to us and honestly, like our whole community. I don't know. They said that about 6 months ago, he had heard from other classmates that the family was inquiring about his whereabouts. We mentioned that before, like that he went missing, and now we're hearing it was like 6 months ago that he was missing for 6 months, just dropped out of his co-living situation in Honolulu from his friends, from his family. And this same classmate said, "I heard that he got back surgery, so we were all a little worried, and many people reached out to him. No response. I didn't hear anything about him until today when all the news dropped. Huge shock, definitely." And then and I don't know if we've already heard this one before, but there was one of the guys from the that handles the co-living um, board. I think is basically what they have. I was on their website today, but he said that it's unimaginable, never once talked about guns, never once talked about violence. He was absolutely not a violent person as far as I could tell. Um, He recalled that he had a back injury after a surf lesson and needed surgery. He said they would talk about issues like healthcare, housing, and food systems, but it wasn't really anything specific. I don't know. And that's basically what they have for all the people they've interviewed. And the press is out there desperately trying to find anyone who can say anything, and we're just not hearing anything. And thank you to TLA 616 for becoming a YouTube member. All right, Mandy's kind of keeping me in the loop with um we're going to play one of the interviews, thanks Mandy, of one of his classmates. So let me pull that up for you guys. All right, here we go.
Luigi Mangione.
How do you know him? What school did you guys go to? How long did you know him for?
So I knew him. I came into the school in eighth grade. I knew him eighth grade throughout high school. But I obviously knew him. We were a small class, small school, only about 400 kids in the high school, maybe like 85 to 100 in my class. So everybody knew everyone really.
So, what were your interactions like? How well did you know him?
Doesn't
How
sound like
much?
all
How
that
many
well.
times would you speak to him? What do you remember?
I would say I spoke to him pretty frequently. He was like a leader in our class, so I'm not quite sure the exact clubs because it's a while back, but he was like a leader of clubs. He was in many clubs. He was also like a soccer player as well. He played baseball, I believe, in middle school, but I think he stopped after that. But everyone just knew him as like a quiet, reserved, nice kid, and he was obviously really intelligent, and everybody can tell that by his resume, of course. Yeah.
So, he was a valedictorian
Yeah.
and had a speech at your.
Yeah. So he spoke at our graduation.
We listened to that.
Every year they have like somebody who's, exceeds academically and in and out of the classroom, and they have them speak in front of our high school. It's weird saying it, but yeah, he was that person that we chose to speak. So, yeah.
Okay, so you've been following this case pretty closely. When
Mhm.
you saw the photo with him wearing his mask, what were your thoughts?
My first thoughts, well, I've had like a history just following like high profile cases. It was just interesting to me personally. When I saw the photo, like I thought it was like a 35-year-old guy. It was like he's a good looking dude, like sharp jawline kind of thing. But I had no hindrance that it was him. I
No
mean, in the back of
hindrance.
my mind, I was like, I feel like that face is familiar, but it was like subconsciously, not really like on the forefront.
So, when did you find out, and what's your reaction to it?
So when I found out, I had like 25, 30 text messages from all different people from like, I'm from Baltimore, obviously, where we went to school together. And everybody that I know from Baltimore is reaching out to me like, did you know this guy? Did you go to school with him? He graduated in the same class as you. And of course, I, replied to all of them after a while and said, yeah. So my initial reactions were just shock, surprise. And I just would never expect someone who went to our school to, be involved in this. So it was just shock, really. I'm still shocked.
And what year did you graduate?
2016.
Okay, from 2016 until now, have you spoken to him at all, or seen anything on Facebook? Are you friends with him on Facebook? Or
I like followed him on Instagram. I think we like
I think
went
we got
back and
the
forth here
most
and
we need
there,
out of this
just
guy.
like touching base with each other. I hadn't spoke to him in maybe like 4 years prior to this though. Recently, like when we went right out of high school, we would check up on each other here and there. But I do know that a lot of people that I went to high school with that were a little bit closer to him said they lost contact with him about like a year and a half ago. So
is there anything else you'd like to add?
no, just praying for the family, of course, and Gilman community, my high school, and just Stanford and Penn community as well.
All right, so I also have, which I think will be interesting, the Mandy sent me the clerk that he checked into a hotel or where he tried to check into a motel. I'm gonna get it past the commercial before I share it with you guys. And we also have another an ex-roommate that might be interesting as well. So we'll hear what he's got to say. In 3, 2, 1. All right, stopped. All right, whoops. Put this here, come back to you guys. All right, let's see.
Walked in kind of cagey, just looking around, making sure he wasn't being washed, asked if he could get a room here. I told him that he wouldn't be able to get one right now, that our housekeeper hadn't cleaned the rooms yet, that he'd have to come back at 1 o'clock. He asked if he could wait here. I told him no, because at the time I didn't know that I could just allow him to wait for, half the day. And he said, okay. And he turned around and just left.
What were you feeling when you had a conversation with him? What was it that made
military? Watching your back. Somebody that we have a lot of vets that stay here. When they come back, they have anybody that walks up behind them, or you feel a shadow or you hear a specific noise, you just kind of look over your shoulders, watch yourself.
They got this guy talking in the background.
He was like, wouldn't turn his head, but his eyes were constantly looking like, is there something coming in behind me? Watching his surroundings. I didn't find out till that night.
It's covering his eyebrows.
And it was one of our guests that he goes, that guy that committed the shooting? He's like, they just caught him at the McDonald's in Altoona. I'm like, what? It still wasn't putting it together. And then when they called this morning and asked if he had stayed here, I says no. But there was somebody that checked in and the officer goes, did he have a mask on? Did he ever take a mask off? I was like, comes back. No, he never did take the mask off. He says, I'll be down there in 5 minutes to talk to you. And the next thing I know, there's 3 Logan Township police cars pulling in the parking lot. I'm like, holy crap. And we pulled it up on surveillance, and sure as stuff, they go, yeah, that's him.
Sure as stuff. Oh, did I pause it or did it end? Oh, that was it. All right. And then we've got one of his former roommate. Let's pull that up. All right. Wait. Sorry, guys. It started playing something totally different than what I shared, so I was completely confused. All right, now I'll play this.
former roommate of Luigi Mangione, RJ Martin. RJ, you lived with, first off, thank you for being with us. I know it's difficult to come on and have to talk about something like this, but you lived with Luigi in Hawaii. Can you tell us a little bit about the guy that you knew?
Yes, so I founded a co-living space called Surf Break Co-Living, and Luigi applied to be a member. And we do an interview process. We do full background checks. And I was fortunate enough to interview him. And from the initial conversation, he was a great fit for our community. Thoughtful individual, has a great job, was looking to come to Hawaii to give back, to stay healthy, to make new friends. He really was an ideal member for our community at Surf Break. And he continued on. He did great things when he was with us. He helped spearhead a book club. He was great to other members. He was always giving and considerate and thoughtful. I remember cooking meals with him and joking around. Had a great sense of humor. We bonded over working out, over the intellectual conversations we had at book club, and the thoughtful young man that I got to know, it seems completely incompatible with an assassin.
You've talked about the back surgery that he had, the back pain that he had. Did he ever express any anger toward the healthcare industry? Anything that would seem resonant to you now that all of this is unfolding?
No, he was one of the most positive people I know. He was always a cup half full kind of person, the kind of person that people enjoyed spending time with. I always look forward to our hangouts. We had intellectual conversations about structural problems that the nation faces, whether they're governmental or corporate, but nothing stands out specifically regarding.
Well, tell me about the structural and corporate issues that you guys would talk about. What were those like, those conversations?
Well, the counterculture that America had in the 1960s made it really clear that we're on a course of action that's destroying the planet for the present gain, for future loss. And I think that conversation and that data and that information has only become more clear and more loud as time goes on. So those would be things we talk about, or perhaps how governmental institutions are failing our citizens, whether it is, education or healthcare or wars that we wage. These are intellectual conversations that, we enjoyed having, whether it was over a meal or at the park during sunset, as we collaborated and had, great talks at our book club.
Regarding the book club, what's the deal with the reading of Ted Kaczynski's book? How did that come to be?
Every week it rotated who got to pick the next reading, or, every 2 weeks, however long it took us to get through something. And another member and I kind of half jokingly proposed it. I kind of always wanted to read it, but never had the motivation. And I figured, well, if we'd have to read it for book club, I'll have to get through it. So it was actually my idea and another member's idea. It wasn't anything Luigi was like inspired to dig into.
It is interesting, having read the Goodreads review of it and seeing what's going on right now. Obviously, he's just a suspect and no one's been convicted. But seeing the totality of what we've been able to understand about him online, including the 3-page document that police have given us a few details about, including anger toward the healthcare system and United specifically. I just wonder, now that you're looking back and you're putting these pieces together as we are, if there's anything does this still surprise you? Are you taken aback? Do you think something might have happened in the time between you last saw him and this?
Well, he was absolutely a kind person, not violent, never wanted to even watch, violent sports or talk about guns, even never once popped up in conversation. So it's beyond surprising that, the Luigi that I knew is completely incompatible with an assassin.
You say that, I read that you said that you lost contact with him. He left Hawaii, got back surgery. He told you there was a story about it. He wanted to tell you in person, but you never had that in-person conversation. How long, when was the last time you guys were able to connect?
That was earlier this year, maybe March-ish, when we had our last text communications. I followed up with him in the next 3 months in a row, just kind of like, hey, what's up, bro? And didn't hear back from him. Our friendship was such that I didn't assume anything. I didn't take it the wrong way. I just knew that, when we did reconnect, our friendship would start from where it left off, and just assume that maybe he'd gotten a new job, moved back home. But I had absolutely zero thought or inclination that something had happened to him.
RJ Martin, thank you very much.
And if you guys were here with us last night, we played his lawyer in Altoona held a press conference. He since held another press conference. That's what we're going to look at next. So stand by. Let me see what you guys are saying over here. Oh, it was already highlighted. Kraken's asked me. Audio on the video B-roll they kept playing on the newscast of the suspect screaming violently when the cops moved him from the car to the building. I want to hear what he said again. I literally just closed that screen. Nope, that's not it. Hmm. No, that's not it. Hmm. Well, let me find that one again, and I will play it. Play it after we play the lawyers. Yep. I don't know what I did with it. All right. This is an interview he did with CNN. So, oh wait, damn it! They're playing that video, but they're not. Here we go. All right, play this for you guys. It's an interview on CNN. So we'll get some more educated questions, I'm going to assume. Now I have all these windows open because I was trying to refine the one that Kraken was asking about. But let's go with this for now.
And so, can you just tell us, how's your client doing in jail tonight?
Well, Caitlin, thank you for having me. As I've been saying all day, if you put yourself, I tell everybody to use their common sense. Here we have a young man who is incarcerated without bail, as you alluded to. And apparently he's going to be charged with murder in the state of New York. If you use your common sense, I'm sure he's, it's concerning. That's all I can say.
Well, you've been an attorney for decades. What did you make of the way he went into court earlier, that outburst that he had?
I'm still analyzing that. I was actually on the other side of the wall when he came in, so I didn't hear all that statement. I've been busy all day, so I haven't had a chance to analyze that. So, I'm not going to comment on something, unfortunately, until I can have a chance to hear that in detail and break that down.
Well, being on the other side of it, you were inside that courtroom, of course, and we learned about what happened in there. You're fighting extradition for him to New York. Why are you fighting that? It seems like it's inevitable that he will be sent to New York.
Well, that may be, but again, the Constitution, and I know I keep bringing up that word today, lest we forget about that. But the Constitution gives you certain rights, and we need to make informed decision. And the law permits, and the Constitution permits, that somebody in Luigi's position has the opportunity to look at evidence, make sure the government follows through a process, and that's what we're doing. So again, I've been in this case probably about 12, 14 hours, maybe whatever, give or take, and I haven't seen a speck of evidence at all. I argued today at the extradition hearing. I still haven't received details about the charges that he's facing in New York. I heard your introduction and looking into that. But so we as lawyers need to make informed decisions, and we need to get our hands and our eyes on some evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the charges right here. It's murder, a loaded firearm, 2 counts of that, a forged instrument, and criminal possession of a weapon as well. I mean, those are the charges.
They're like, here's New York. Charges,
I mean, so as you're fighting extradition, you're not actually arguing that the authorities in New York have the wrong guy, are you?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that they have the right guy. I can tell you that much. So I don't know anything about that. There's identification issues that are present, and so I don't. Like I said, this is why I need to look at some things, and they need to convince me. I try to remind people, and it's a shame that we forget about this presumption of innocence that the Constitution gives all Americans, and people don't worry about the Constitution until they're facing charges or accusations against them. Then trust me, Caitlin, the Constitution matters.
And of course it does. And yes, I know you highlighted earlier and emphasized innocent until proven guilty. I understand that. But I read the police report from when he was arrested. He initially gave them a false name. And then when they asked to confirm his identity, he said that he shouldn't have lied to them about it. I mean, that would seem to be that they do have the right person, given that he had a gun on him. He had a fake New Jersey ID that he used to check into a hostel. I mean, is none of that enough for you personally to know that they do have the right guy?
Well, first of all, that's a piece of paper. I know you probably can't tell, but I'm 5'6". I could write on that I'm 6'5". and all this other kind of stuff. So that's written on paper. What's nice about the law is we'll have a hearing. I can cross-examine witnesses and find out, look at reports and find out what they have and what they don't have. So again, that's just written on a criminal complaint. Without getting into the details of that, I don't see any evidence of a forgery. You're going to have to at least prove a prima facie case, which is less than the beyond a reasonable doubt. But I need to see these things. Right now I have one piece of paper. And again, so yes,
Mr. Dickey, have you asked to see this?
I have a copy of, if that's the Pennsylvania complaint, I have a copy of that. I was
But have you
handed
asked to
that
see the
today
evidence?
near the end. Well, that's what we're good. We have a hearing coming up on, I believe, the 23rd. I apologize if I'm in error about that because there's a bunch of dates that's been flying around today. But yes, and like I said, tomorrow I'm going to reach out to the district attorney. It's my intentions and to see if how much we can see of this stuff. So today was not about that. So we have not had the opportunity to do that today.
And I know you were also unhappy that he was denied bail. Of course, prosecutors were arguing that he is a risk. You know, they either have to talk about, you know, being a flight risk or a risk to the community. Obviously, he was captured about 250 miles from Manhattan. But you said you were retained today. One big question that everyone has is, are you being paid by his family to represent him?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, can you say that it's not his family who is asking you to retain him? Or to retaining you to represent him?
I'm not going to comment on. I'm not going to comment on that. That's I've been retained. I was not court appointed. I've been retained, and that's all I can tell you.
We had seen reports earlier
So
that there was, you know, people were inundating you with offers to help pay for his legal bills. Is that accurate?
I have received some emails. I have not seen them personally, but my understanding from my staff is people are doing that.
That people are reaching out to you and offering to help pay for his legal bills.
That's correct.
Would you accept those offers? I mean, I imagine you maybe have, I don't know, have you ever gotten that before?
Nah, to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't.
Why do you think you would not accept that?
I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't feel comfortable about that. So I don't know. I haven't given that much thought, but I'm not looking, I mean, obviously my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I just, I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really.
Why do you think they're offering?
I don't know. People, you talk about, the Supreme Court says, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
You noted there that you said he supports he appreciates the support that he's getting. Did he acknowledge that when you had a conversation with him earlier about how we have seen this intense public interest in him himself?
Yeah, unfortunately, Caitlin, I can't get into anything that my client and I talk about. So by law, I'm not permitted to reveal anything that's attorney-client privilege in any conversation that occurs between he and I is simply that.
I understand that, but could you describe just what his demeanor is? You're talking about putting yourself in his shoes, but did he seem nervous? Did he seem calm, or how did he come off to you when you met him?
Well, yeah, and if we have a minute, I do want to go back to that bail situation if we have a quick second. But anyway, I've been telling people all day to use their common sense. Here's a young man who's, apparently going to be or has been charged with a very serious, one of the most serious offenses a person could be charged with. He's in prison without bail, as you previously mentioned. And so, I think common sense would say, he's concerned.
Do you plan on representing him only in Pennsylvania or also in New York?
Well, that will depend. I got to see how this process pans out. And if in fact I were asked to do that, I certainly would consider that and probably do that.
Thomas Dickey, I know you've had a very busy day. Thank you for your time tonight and for joining us. And I hope you'll come back and join us in the future.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to play, because I've got to deal with family here, no one else is home, is the video of him at court that Kraken asked for. Thank you, Mandy, for finding and sending it. Where is it? This is it. All right. Give me a sec.
Oh my God, that's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Completely unjust and insults the intelligence of the American people and experience, I think.
Don't. Oh my God, that's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
And life experience, maybe. So, and just to answer Meg, and thank you, Meg, for your generosity. I guess he's being held in prison to protect him is probably what they're saying. Same as they said um, with Richard Allen. I doubt that he's being held. I don't know. Maybe he is being held in isolation, but I can. It, that's just, I guess, what they're doing because it's such a high profile case, and they want to keep him safe. And again, thank you for your generosity. So a couple other things I wanted to mention was just that there's also reporting that everything on the gun, let me see where Mandy sent it to me here. That ghost gun was fully homemade, officials say. I think that we knew that, and I guess we'll find out more, obviously, once we hear the evidence about the way they were able to match these ballistics and things like that. Anxious to see someone come forward with some additional information about, anything in the last 6 months with this guy, but you heard it from all accounts. Someone with promise, with prospect, had all the opportunities in the world, and this was how he decided to send a message, which there were plenty of other ways that it could have been done without somebody being killed, none of which I would, personally recommend anyone do. But obviously murdering someone is not the way to do it. But thanks guys for coming. This was just a short update. If anything breaks, shocking, maybe I'll come back at you. Bob will be here tomorrow. We are trying to land. I did reach out to that same guy, RJ Martin, who was involved in that co-living situation. Have not heard back, and we'll see if we can get some good guests on to give us some more information about this enigma. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and appreciate you mods for sure. Thanks for everything, guys.